My name is Flora, and I'm going to tell you a story about what happened to me 2 years ago. It was my senior year of high school. Everything was going well, and my school results were decent. I got along with my classmates and often talked to everyone. Well, everyone except this one boy who always kept to himself. He was just always drawing quietly in his seat at the back of the class. Everyone took his behavior for shyness, and no one usually talked to him. In fact, I was one of the few who had tried to make him come out of his shell, but he just royally ignored me. For a while, I gave up on the idea of dragging him out of his fortress of loneliness, figuring that he must just have preferred his own company. Then one time, I ran into him in the hall, where he was sitting, and of course drawing into his sketchbook. I decided to give it one more try. "Hi, what are you drawing?" I asked him. As usual, he didn't answer to me, or even acknowledge my presence. He just kept drawing with a blank expression on his face, calm and emotionless. After waiting a while, I ended up leaving him alone. A few days later, I spotted him at the metro station on my way home. The station was pretty empty. There were 3 people there. Me, a man probably in his 40s sitting cross-legged on a bench with his little briefcase, and my mysterious classmate carrying a big sports bag. This time, I chose to not try and talk to him. I didn't feel like getting ignored once again. When the metro arrived, we all got on the same car. What struck me immediately was the stench. Not the smell of sweat or anything, it was more like rotten meat. It's a smell I will never forget. The expression on the 40-year-old man's face clearly indicated surprise and disgust, so I concluded the source of the smell had to be my classmate, or rather his gym bag. I wanted to get a little bit further, to put some distance between myself and his smelly bag, as quickly as possible. Suddenly the man in the suit said something that stopped me in my tracks though. "Young man, what is that dripping from your bag?" Small red drops were beating on the base of the bag before falling to the ground, gradually creating a puddle. I started to break out in cold sweat, but had no idea how to react. My classmate remained silent, ignoring us both just as he always ignored me. No one spoke again until the ticket inspector stepped into our car to check our tickets. He also noticed the bottle of red under the bag and hurried to remind my classmate that food was prohibited on the metro. "You're going to have to open your bag," he said. My classmate hesitated, but then slowly began to open the front pocket of the bag. And before any one of us could react to it, he started brandishing a big kitchen knife in our direction, still in complete silence. Luckily, the inspector and the middle-aged man managed to disarm and subdue him quickly. They then asked me to call the police and tell the driver, which, of course, I quickly did. About 10 or 15 minutes later, the police arrived at the next station, where we were waiting. They took my statement and opened his bag. Inside, there were 2 human hands covered in blood. It was horrible. The image is still imprinted in my memory to this day. Later, I learned that my classmate had severe psychological problems, and he continuously drew hands in his sketchbook. I still visit a psychologist, trying to forget about this incident, to not think that I could have lost my hands, or worse, and above all, to forget that this boy was my classmate.